is Dr. Wyatt.
Hello, I'm Maggie Mercer.
Nice to meet you, Maggie.
Nice to meet you.
Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Let's start your interview.
Okay.
Okay, so first question. If you had to describe yourself in one image, what would it be and why?
I think that I would be probably like a volcano. Like a volcano, because I'm really strong and grounded, like a mountain would be. But I also always have some like lava and stuff bubbling underneath because I'm a very passionate person. And sometimes when life gets stressful or school gets stressful, that lava kind of bubbles up and erupts. Not like in a temper kind of eruption, but more in an eruption of growth.
Okay, second question. How has your undergraduate experience at this point led you to this interview here today?
My first semester was a little bit rough. I didn't come from the greatest high school, so even though I was the top of my class, I was still a little bit behind in terms of coursework, especially when it came to like history and politics. So since I was an international affairs major, it was definitely a struggle when taking classes specifically for my major, and other people knew what was going on, talking about things like the Gulf War and stuff like that, when my classes in high school had stopped at like World War II. And that was really disheartening to me, and it was really a tough way to start off my undergraduate career. My second semester of college, everything got a little bit easier. I started to get acquainted with how college works and how much work you have to put into it and all of that. And I started taking my first gender and women's studies and social justice classes, which just really I became very passionate about. And it was great. I loved those classes, but they also kind of took a toll on my heart because I took them very seriously, and at times I think a lot of people that study these things and devote their lives to them, you become kind of hopeless because they're such big problems, or wicked problems as we say. I was getting ready to start registering for classes, and I became kind of distraught because I had used up all of my electives that allowed me to take these kinds of classes on social issues, and the options that I had left weren't exciting to me or fulfilling, and I felt very lost in what I should do going forward. And so it basically led to my first kind of eruption in college, where I felt lost. And so I called my mom, because my mom has always been my rock and has helped me through, everything. And her and I talked about it, and she made me realize that I probably need to either change my major or add a second major or a minor so that I can continue to take those classes that made me feel so fulfilled in life and really gave me more of a purpose. And that kind of led me to declaring my second major, which is diversity and community studies. My second year of college, everything got quite a bit better. And then my second semester, I left for a study abroad trip called Semester at Sea. And I realized that I absolutely loved traveling. I had never been as happy and engaged and fulfilled as when I was doing that traveling and meeting people around the world and learning about new cultures and different people's stories. And I just felt so connected to everyone back. It was a really big readjustment because I had been so happy traveling, and then I came back and I felt isolated because I didn't have the same experiences as my friends anymore, and we didn't relate to each other in the same type of way. And I really craved that international experience, and it was kind of almost a letdown when I came home. And I really realized that I wanted to do international work. I wanted to help people in an international context, whether that was working abroad or working for an international NGO or something like that. But I really wanted to do service with people in an international way. And so that kind of led me down this path in my international studies classes. I had started taking Arabic as a foreign language and really fell in love with it, not just like linguistically, but fell in love with kind of the culture that goes around it. And when I had done semester at sea, I had visited Morocco, which although it's not in the Middle East, it's in a majority Arab and Muslim country, which I absolutely loved. And so between taking Arabic classes and taking Islam and really focusing on the Middle East in my international affairs classes, I became really, really interested in that area. And obviously there's a lot of conflict in that area as well, and so I was able to merge my two new passions, and that like really gave me a new direction in my studies, which was great, except that my junior year was incredibly stressful. I ended up taking 18 credit hours both semesters, and I also moved out of the dorms into an apartment with some friends that was a less than ideal living situation. Because my life was very stressful, it got to the point where all I did was go to class, go to extracurricular activities, and do homework in the library. Pretty much 14 to 15 hours a day, and then would go home to sleep, and that's about it, and start over the next day. So my lava level hit really high again, and I kind of had another eruption where I just realized that my college career could not go on this way. I could not physically sustain that kind of life because I was just drained all the time over everything. And again, I kind of had another phone call with my mom, and she really realized that I was not in a good place, and I couldn't go on that way. And we both decided that I should do the one thing that makes me absolutely happy, and that is travel. So I decided to do another study abroad trip, this time over a summer, and that would take me to Northern Ireland and Jordan, where I would be studying conflict resolution, again, some of my passions. And that eruption kind of led to that new decision, which was leading to even more personal growth on my part, because I learned so much about how much work I can do and how much I can take on, but also knowing that sometimes you have to give yourself a break, and sometimes you have to change things in order to make your life a little bit more successful and a little bit more livable.
That sounds like a very interesting program. Could you tell me what you gained from it?
Yeah, of course. It was an amazing program, obviously. But probably the biggest thing for me was living with a host family in Jordan. And they were actually part Syrian and part Palestinian. So my host dad was from Syria and my host mom was from Palestine. And between the two, hearing all of their stories about their social and political struggles within the area just, really touched my heart and made me realize that 100% I wanted to work in the Middle East, and I wanted to help people like them whose lives had been touched so much by these types of conflict. And so I kind of felt my two majors really coming together. So then when I came back, it was my second to last semester at school, and I had to take my International Affairs senior seminar with my professor, Dr. Rich, and we had to write a really large research paper for that class. And when I went and talked to him about it, basically he asked what I'm passionate about, and I told him all of that, and so it turned into this really big research project. And Dr. Rich really pushed me to present that at a regional conference, and so I applied to present at the Southern Political Science Association's research conference in the winter. So I was accepted into the research conference, and I went to New Orleans and presented my research, and it was a really amazing opportunity, and I learned a lot from it. But it was a really big learning curve for me. I was very surprised when I sat in on not only my own but a lot of other people's panels, specifically in security studies, that it really is a completely male-dominated field. And at times my voice was not only not welcomed, but really talked over. It made me extremely angry that my voice couldn't be heard when we were talking about a field that I was so passionate about and that I had actually done research in. And so this frustration really bubbled up inside of me again and kind of led to my last eruption. And I remember towards the end of the research conference calling my mom and talking to her about it and talking to Dr. Rich about it, and between the two of them I realized that this is a problem and that it's a male-dominated field, and the best way to go about it is to stay within that field and to make my research known and to continue my research, so that hopefully other women can begin to be part of the conversation as well. And those conversations are really what pushed me to start applying to graduate schools, and specifically master's programs in conflict resolution, to continue my research. So that's what has brought me to this interview. And my undergraduate career really set me up perfectly for those goals.
I absolutely agree. Thank you for sharing your story. It sounds like you've been on quite a journey.